Now we get to the real life, the on-the-ground experience of what's happening on the ground. So you get to hear the people who not only like, you know, faces this pandemic, the impacts from pandemics, but, you know, you'll hear from them the visions of how they will steer the business through this crisis and what their visions are. So for me to introduce the first person, the first guy is going to be Sulabh Dhanuka. Sulabh's actually going to be our moderator of this panelist talk. He's the head of Digital Solutions International from True Digital Group. Okay. The second person is Mr. Matthieu Francois. He's the associate partner of Vietnam from Mckinsey and Company. Okay. The third person I'd like to introduce, he's our very first Thai speaker who's going to be involved in this, is Yostsawet Srisutiwong. He's the Director of Finance and Administration of Mega Market Vietnam and Co. And the fourth person is Dr. Tran, Viet Huan. He's the Chief Technology Officer of SonKim Retail. And the fifth person is my very close friend. So I actually know him for about 10 years. I knew him from my MBA school. And I'm actually very proud of what he's achieved in Vietnam. So he's Pawin Sriusvagool. He's the Group CEO of New Retail Division and Group Business Director of VNLIFE. So Sulabh, I'll leave the floor to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And good morning to everyone. And thank you for joining our webinar here today. Very excited to have this panel. And I know we're running a little bit behind on time, so we'll try to get through some of our key questions. Maybe I think one of the key questions for everyone today is coming out of COVID. The pandemic has, of course, really impacted businesses worldwide. Recently, Vietnam has seen some of the strictest lockdowns, anywhere in the world. And that's naturally impacted both offline and even online retail, as we heard at the beginning. So let me maybe start with Kun Pawin, right? As we look at 2022, what do you see are some of the priorities for Vietnamese retailers specifically to come out of the pandemic, hopefully stronger?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Sulabh, and thank you, Kun Vorayot, my brother, for a kind intro, right? So I guess this question is relating to a lot of the retail businesses in Vietnam and of course across the world. I guess I will be speaking on behalf of my clients because, as you know, VNLIFE, we are not a retail company. We are a tech unicorn in Vietnam, right? Our business consisted of like 4 main verticals, VNPay, which is a leading fintech company in Vietnam here. We have also the online travel platforms, Viet Travel, our omnichannel platforms, and the new retail. I guess, we have currently more than 100,000 merchants that we serve in Vietnam. So basically cover different sectors, retail, e-commerce, right? So based on my discussion with a lot of the clients, I would say there are 4 key things they are currently focusing on at the moment. First is to ensure there's safety in store and throughout the value chain, right? Making sure that the staff are fully vaccinated, they're regularly tested. The second key point is about making sure that the store have a safe environment, making sure that they're regularly sterilized. And then the third thing is about maintaining good contacts with the customers, right? Making sure that have an appropriate level of social distancing. I think the second thing is I think I'm gonna touch on a little bit on the supply chain issue because it's being affected. A lot of the retailers, that a lot of the products are being shipped from China or even produced in Vietnam, right? So during the lockdown period, a lot of retailers are going through like the supply shortage, right? A lot of products like that is relating to microchip from Taiwan, consistently face out of stock. So I think demand planning becoming a big issue for a lot of retailers. And I think during the lockdown, that the instant noodles and a lot of food and necessities have been out of stock as well, right? I think what we're seeing at the moment as well is there's a lot of a tendency for consumers to probably trade down, buy less or buy for less premium goods. So I think it's quite necessary for retailer to shift their merchandising strategy, commercial strategy, to make sure that they are adapting to the consumer needs when they're trending downward. The third thing is about organizational effectiveness. And I think a lot of the companies take this, the last 18 months to kind of rationalize their costs, making sure that they're lean. Certain staff are being asked to perform multitask, so then they can save the company, money. So I think a lot of the retailers are, whoever will survive from this period, they're going to come out stronger because their cost base have been majoritarily, rationalized. And I think the most important one is about the fourth one, which we all hear today, is how can companies build like a strong online presence? How do they build like a clear digital strategy going forward, right? Having a website or joining different platforms doesn't mean that you are truly digitally transformed. So what do you have to do to increase your tech capabilities, human capabilities, as well as have a clear vision going forward on how you're going to drive this thing? Because I think COVID is going to be here to stay, and so I think a lot of retailers have to learn how to live in this new normal. So I think for me that would be 4 key things for the retailers to think about.
No, absolutely. It's a really, really good point, right? That especially with lower staffing, you have to do more with less, and sort of where and how technology can play a role, whether that's for more safety, better supply chain management, better demand planning. So actually, let me ask Matthieu. Since you at Mckinsey, you're obviously advising retailers and businesses across the world. What are you seeing maybe, in markets like the US or UK that have opened up, about 6-7 months ago now? What are the best retailers doing to come out of this pandemic?
Yeah, no, and look, let me not repeat some of the elements of the recipe that were just mentioned, because I think it applies there. Maybe if I can just add a couple of things, right, to the trend we've seen around the world. One of them is that COVID probably led to a quite sustained change in the format preferences of people, right? So it will tend to, maybe accelerate the way people shift to smaller format, more convenient format. And this is not only an American thing, right? It's very visible in Asia, right? So it's likely that when COVID disappears, it's favors smaller stores, smaller format. The other thing that we have observed, and it's not new, not related to COVID, but got massively accelerated, is the shift to omnichannel. So I think what COVID did is that it accelerated adoption quite a lot, right? People started buying online for the first time. A lot of them will keep buying online even when the constraint disappears. What is happening now a little bit more in the background is that retailers need to adapt their operations to that, right? I think everyone went quite quickly through the step where they offer a fairly convenient way for consumers to order online. I think it took longer for people to really nail the operations and the supply chain behind that, right? And so, for example, rethinking the fulfillment models to take care of that is an ongoing process, right? Which I think is going to matter a lot in the coming years as retailers try to adapt to this.
Very, very good point, Matthieu. The fulfillment side, is key. I think it's a big shift, right, in how retailers think about fulfilling their stores to, in some cases, as we heard, Simon talk about, right, grocery stores delivering within 30 minutes. Are you geared up to actually deliver to the customer that way? So actually, if I ask Yostsawet, if I look at now Vietnam specifically, I mean, where do you see some of the Vietnamese specific challenges or obstacles, and then of course, how do we address those?
Thank you very much, Khun Sulabh, and I hope everyone can hear you well. I think for Vietnam customer, so the retailer needs to understand about the retail market in Vietnam first. Like Warayut said that retail market in Vietnam is quite huge, but we need to understand that majority of the retail in Vietnam is still more on the traditional trade, and they still have a lot of opportunity for the modern trade to grow in Vietnam. However, in terms of the online to offline, so I think it depends on the retailer, what is the product. For example, like for consumer product like non-food, I think it's more the trend is to go from to online rather than offline. Why for the food, especially in Vietnamese customer, when they come to shopping in Mega Market Vietnam, they still prefer to see the product and select the product by themselves. So I think it depends on the retailer. They need to be ready. And Matthieu already said that they need to adapt and agility based on the customer demand. I like what Marina said when her section about the O2O. And I think this one already creates some disruption. Like you can see many fashion store in Orchard Road, Singapore. They already decided to store site and they try to promote their product and promotion to their customer via online. However, they still maintain the small size of the store to allow customer to visit and make customer more comfortable and more reliable than purely online. So I think the challenge for the retailer is to create the new customer experience. I give you some example, like in MM, we try to develop Mega Market. We try to develop our signature item. Like you cannot buy from outside, you only can buy from our store. We try to apply the new technology like deep knot or like ergonomy in terms of the personalized promotion to our customer. How do we improve customer service and how do we increase more in-store activity? So right after the lockdown in Ho Chi Minh City, after remove the Directive 16, we started immediately to run our 5th year anniversary. In fact, we postponed from the mid of July this year. And starting from today, we have the Thai Fair, which is celebrating Loi Krathong. And the upcoming month, we have Christmas, we have New Year. And this is the time for preparation for the Tet 2022, right? So customer is looking for the big festival is coming. Thank you very much, Sulabh.
That's a very, very good point. I think there was a question or a comment earlier in our common chat group here, whether offline retail will still remain relevant and, still be will still be interesting. And I think, you're showing that Mega Market, of course, is really ensuring that that is a truly omni-channel experience there. Dr. Huan, if I may ask you, we've heard a lot about, omni-channel and we've heard a lot about online, offline. How are you thinking about, striking that balance between offline and online and, providing that omni-channel experience to customers?
Most of our store were offline 2 years ago. So we have the convenience store with the J25, we have the fashion store with Vera Yoki, and we have the restaurant, right? So 2 years ago, we defined our omni-channel strategy to go online, to understand the customer experience and to improve the user experience. I think that we are lucky enough when we started our online website for the Vera Yoki just before the COVID. So that when the last year, when the owner of the store had to shut down in the April, we attract a lot of the customer to our website. And in fact, for me, that is the very good factor that we don't need to spend a lot of money to acquire the customer. Basically, from the offline to online, it will take 1 or 2 years, right, to move from 10% of revenue to the 20% revenue, etc. In fact, last year, it helped us to, from the fashion store, move to the 20% of the total revenue for online. In fact, it's just in the 6 months. And for this year, it up to now people go back to the offline store. Online revenue is still maintained at the 30%. That also means that the offline store still play a critical role in the new normal situation. People still go back to the offline. A lot of people maintain the online shopping behavior, but also a lot of people to go back to the offline, and it's still the major revenue for us, I think. And then for the restaurant, for example, we believe by 2 years ago that the restaurant, the online delivery would be there, but it should be longer than the maybe in the next 1-2 years. But actually, after the COVID, it happened, and it happened much earlier than our plan. So that last year we had quickly within 1 or 2 weeks to put up our online website for our restaurant. And also, but the last year there is different. Last year when after the shutdown, people go back to the normal situation. They go to the restaurant, etc. Our online revenue is declining. However, for this year, I think Ho Chi Minh City, you know that it just came out from the 4-5 months shutdown, and people expect that to go back very excited to go back to the restaurant, but it's not true. People still very careful. Yes, go back to restaurant for some colleague, the gathering, etc. But people still very careful in terms of the new way of the COVID. So I think the situation on and off for the current living of COVID, the situation would be continue at least in the next 6 months. So the key decision right now for F&B is why they still they focus on attracting the people online to the offline, but at the same time they have to maintain the alternative revenue from online and from delivery to have the balanced revenue sources, so that wherever the new way coming, they still can survive. So I think that is key important is how to be the resilient right now for the new situation. And I think O2O model is not just now, it's not just to focus on the customer experience to be the relevant on the customer for the any channel, but also that is for us is a business continuity plan as well.
No, it's a very good point, right? Because the uncertainty in the market, in the environment, sort of will continue. Could you also, as especially as somebody who looks after the finance side of things, it brings into question a bit of a strategic decision by the company, by the retailer, by the companies. Where do we invest, right? How much do we prioritize our online channels and continue investing in those versus now making a big push to boost our offline? How are you thinking about that balance?
Thank you for your question, Sulabh. I think that's a very good question. But I think the retailer need to think carefully, because to invest in the online, many retailers think that online is a new ocean. Many people try to invest a lot, but honestly, less than 10% of online business is successful. Now, to be honest, many online business still making loss. So I think as a retailer, we need to be careful. So we need to do in terms of return on investment business analysis before we spend investment. But we cannot say that the trend of the market is going to be more digital. So example, right, the retailer, before in the mega market, we try to use a lot of the brochure, we print it out, we put a lot of decoration in our store. But now the trend is going to be like more digitalized marketing. And we, even during the lockdown, we cannot have the in-store activity, but we engage with customer by using the online channel with Facebook, TikTok, Saro, and we have even how do we engage to customer like the game online. So retailer need to think carefully about the way they want to invest, but however, we cannot prevent that this is the trend. So we have to moving forward for the online more than offline.
I want to add give the example from our experience. So for the convenience store, for example, right, we continue to invest to open the new store because that is the concept of to be the just around the customer, right? But at the same time, for the CVS, we believe that the customer also even because of the COVID, they go online as well. So that the online is still the one trusted place. But another side, for the fashion store, we focus on the investing on the online capability. We maintain the fashion store for the customer to have the experience with the new fashion, etc. But the online is still and we use the online to expand out the geography as well. So for the new provinces, we invest in the digital marketing for the online purchase first. And when we see there is a good attraction in one province, then we will consider to open the offline store for the customer experience. So I think it depends on the vertical, the retail category.
Sulabh, I think if I can add a little bit, right? I think I want to come back to what Simon said earlier, right? I mean, three things: vision, tech, and then people and capabilities. And I think the ROI always comes down to, the capabilities, the people that you don't have, capabilities that you don't have, and high fixed costs, right? I think from VNLIFE perspective, right? Last year when COVID hit, we worked with one of the largest retailers in Vietnam to digitalize their platform through our VNLIFE Techco omni-channel solutions. We were able to, build everything for them within the two months of a period of 2 months lockdown. So that was the app and e-commerce platform that we did for them, but we didn't ask them for any one-time fixed costs. But instead, what we did was we asked them for a revenue sharing scheme, and there's no upfront fee, right? So that is how we help retailer doing it in such a way. Second thing, from our perspective at VNLIFE, we have more than 700 software engineers and 50 data scientists in-house, all based in Singapore. We have plenty of capabilities, and these capabilities, meaning that our clients do not have to set up a huge IT department to get what they wish, right? And our solutions are customizable. It's very flexible. It's really, asset light, meaning that customers do not have to hold server at their premise. They can work with us, right? But I think at the end of the day, ability to reactivate and execute in a very timely manner is very critical during this period. So a lot of the retailers, when they face with ROI, and they're gonna know that even though they spend, it will take them more than 6 months or even 9 months to have their platform up and running, right? But if they were to work with VNLIFE, we could get their business up and running within 2 to 3 months time.
No, it's a good point, right? It's that speed, that agility that you're talking about is, I think, very, very critical. Yeah. Of course, digital allows that much more, easily than opening a new store and staffing that entire offline operation. But actually, there was a interesting discussion as well that's been going on around. Everyone's talking online. Everyone's moving online. We believe customer preferences are moving online. Does offline even, what's the future for offline retail, right? What is, are they even going to remain relevant in the future? Or are certain categories of retail simply going to shift completely online? Maybe Yostsawet, I'll start with you, since I think you're typically in a segment that, where offline, I think, will remain probably most relevant, right, around food and all. But then I do want to, ask the same question to Dr. Huan, where maybe the segment categories that you're primarily marketing, lend themselves more easily to online as well. So maybe you can Yostsawet, is brick and mortar dead? Are we going to go 100% online?
Thank you again, Sulabh, for the question. So Mega Market Vietnam, can say that we are brick and mortar. We are cash and carry. We have around 21 stores nationwide in Vietnam with the multi-format from cash and carry until supermarket and food service depot. Yes, I would like to come back to what Simon from Mckinsey presented for the beginning, how COVID impact to customer behavior, right? So number one, so now how customer they get the information, right? So now it's shift from the traditional, I mentioned before, to digital marketing, right? And what customer purchase. So come back to Sulabh's question is that what customer are looking for, what they want to buy. So I think now, number one is the customer, they're not easy to buy like before. So they have to evaluate what is their value of money. Right? It's not easy to get customer to buy more like before. And the second one is what is the new customer need? After pandemics, customer is looking for some kind of product like healthy, safety, or more convenient, like ready to eat or ready to cook. Instead of they go to the wet market and they have to think about what is the recipe or menu I want to cook tonight for my family, something like that. And one thing is different with during COVID time is about the stock up behavior. Like Kun Pawin mentioned, during the pandemics, people stock a lot of toilet tissue, a lot of the instant noodle, but now no more. People is come back to be normal. So the big and mortar retail have to be adapt their store format. And the second one, where customer would like to purchase, I think for sure now we see that the trend from the online is going up, especially during the lockdown, already going down. But this is the future, is a trend. However, what I would like to highlight is about the shopping behavior. We can see immediately that even after lockdown release in Ho Chi Minh City, but the number of customers come back to our store is reduced. That means the frequency of the customer to come to shopping in the store is not recovered yet. It's reduced. But in terms of the basket of customer, when they come one time, they buy more than before. So this is the question for retailer, that how do you gain more share of wallet from your customer? And the last but not least is about the customer experience. Like Matthieu mentioned before, like seamless omni-channel experience. Because customer now, they 5 months, right? They stay at home, they're familiar with how to shopping online, they enjoy with the loyalty program, telesale. So how do we, as a retailer, how do we create the human touch? How do we create the customer experience? Some trick or some scheme that Mega Market Vietnam we apply is like we give the incentive for the first time shopper. So when they register our loyalty application as an M card, we give them some top up point. So when they come to shop online or come to our store, they can enjoy. Or we also consider to give some point incentive to reactivate the customer who don't come back to shop in our store for a while. So I think from Mega Market Vietnam, we still have to maintain our offline channel to create the customer experience and customer journey. At the same time, we have to grow in terms of the online e-commerce business.
Yeah,
that's all my recommendations.
I think a lot of companies envy Yostsawet, right? Because you know, the food are necessity and they were not necessarily locked down during the period. But then you know, during the last 3 months, I mean, a lot of the hardline business, fashion retail, they were to close, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I would emphasize on the aspect that you mentioned about the customer experience, right? And I just want to give the kind of the funny example. I think if you look at currently the restaurant in the center of Saigon are not allowed to sell alcohol on site, right? And then if you look at some restaurants still can sell it, and there is a lot of people, the crowded people there. They don't care much about the safety, and other restaurant without alcohol, very few the customer. So it means that there is experience. It's just for the food. Now they can order online and order the delivery to enjoy at home. But there is an atmosphere that they want to enjoy with the colleague, with the friend. Then they still go online. And then from that angle, I think the COVID changed a lot in terms of the user experience. Before, a lot of people still want to go offline because they can easily to choose the product. They can try out. They can easily to return the product. But now with the COVID, they maybe a lot of them the first time to buy online and get experience, and then they change their behavior. They still go to offline, but there is a balance between the how many percentage they buy online, what kind of product they can buy online without losing the experience, and there is still the offline experience. So that's why I think the omni-channel, not just the offline to online, but also online to offline experience will be the focus in the next few years in the Vietnam. Offline still play a critical role, but at the same time, the online portion will continue to increase and should be the faster than we expected before COVID.
No, absolutely. It's a really, I fully agree with that. Offline will always have a place. But it's connecting the two, because I think consumers will be using both, even with the same brand. The loyalty programs, and the personalizations, both offline, online, I think are very important. Something that at True Digital, we're very actively pushing on. Just the last couple of minutes, I want to touch upon, technology and digital a little bit. Matthieu, you mentioned, that about investments and how some of them do take time. And honestly, right, having worked in the digital space for a while, there is a large element of belief that this a certain technology will ultimately yield returns, even if the case studies or the ROI may not be very obvious right now. Do you see any big bets that you believe retailers should make, without waiting for a couple of years of proven ROIs?
Yeah, and absolutely. Because I think that was the main message of this whole webinar, right? Is that it makes a lot of sense to invest, but to me, there are different time horizon and different investment profile across a broad range of use cases. So I think what we saw earlier, for example, with Simon, right, is that you have a bunch of commercial use cases that usually have a very quick payback, right? So it almost always pays fast to have things like pricing or assortment analytics, right? And that's not necessarily rocket science or completely new, right? It's just by now it become pretty hygiene, right? You also have a bunch of things that I think were very well explained today about managing the operation, like automating some of the operation, etc. And I believe when you do the business case of those things, it always also quite quick, the payback. The thing that is not going to be obvious is what we were discussing before, is that when you really go omni-channel, when you open a digital front, sometimes, some retailers open a marketplace, which means that they also cannibalize their own assortment with a third-party assortment. This is much more tricky. And, after that, once you invest significantly in the ability to sell online, I think someone mentioned it a few minutes ago, right? You will pretty soon not be able to pick up in the store. You will have to open dark stores, etc. So this is more revolutionary. And so I fundamentally believe that every retailer should make that bet, but it's not a straightforward bet. Right? It takes quite some planning, it takes quite some thinking, and it takes quite some modeling of, how much exactly am I ready to invest and to burn a little bit before I get my payback. Right? Not every retailer is, ready and fully mentally prepared to make that bet.
Absolutely. I think let me just end with one last question, right? Then maybe to Pawin, Dr. Huan, even Yostsawet, right? What are some of the big technology investments that you are making right now? Both in your own businesses or what you're seeing other fellow colleagues making. Maybe start with Dr. Huan.
Yeah. So we focus on the few things. Firstly, O2O that I mentioned. The second is about the customer insight to have the excellent customer experience. We need to understand the customer, right? And from our group, we have different touch points. A store from the convenience store, we have the online with the set size, etc. So that we continue to invest on our customer data platform At the same time, we understand the concern in terms of the customer privacy, so that we work with the technology partner to improve that. Then one of the area that Matthieu mentioned is about analytics. So analytics is also the key focus, not only the very basic, the business intelligence for us to understand and to make the real-time decision, but also advanced analytics in terms of the merchandising, assortment, etc. So then I believe that is the key area. And at the same time, we also focus on technology to help us for the open ecosystem, because we believe today we are not alone and we are not compete with everyone. We should be work with the different player in the retail for the open ecosystem. So that's why we are also focusing on the blockchain technology to achieve that objective. And go back to your previous question, there is a new area we don't expect to calculate and to invest based on ROI, because for sure there are area that you cannot calculate the ROI. So that's why we have to make our bet on that. And the way we work on that is we open the discussion with the technology partner for the co-innovation concept. We have the business problem. We are ready to be the early adopter of any new technology, so that we require to have the co-investment from both sides for the what we call the small scale, so that we can prove to the business that we can achieve the ROI after the pilot, not before the pilot. And after that, we can scale out.
I think in the interest of time, let me thank everyone, all our speakers. Again, let me really thank speakers that have spoken earlier. Simon, Marina, Abhishek, Long, for an excellent discussion. Also really want to thank the panelists here. Some very interesting insights. So thank you, Matthieu, Viet, Pawin, and Dr. Huan for kindly joining our webinar here. Some really good points. I think uncertain times for sure. Lots of hard work that will need to be done. That's also for sure. I think understanding where, how to deploy technology is key, but I think also very important to not ignore it, not be scared by it. I think we've all heard that many solutions genuinely can help us come out of the pandemic and help us become stronger, larger retailers and deliver that customer experience, which I think at the end of the day is the critical element in retail, right? It is a customer-facing industry, and the customer, experience matters most. May I then ask to just go to the next slide here? So I think in the beginning, we mentioned, there's some prizes or giveaways, if you will. I think, please do share those in selfies, but also I invite you to register, through this QR code that you can scan at the moment. Dr. Huan mentioned working with the partners and, co-investing. That's something we strongly believe in as well at True Digital, especially as we deploy very innovative world-class solutions in Vietnam. We understand that some of these do require, some testing, some pilots. We're happy to go on that journey with you. So please do scan this. We'd love to have those conversations and see how we can, maybe bring some new technology to Vietnam with you. Next slide, please. We also have recently published a white paper for those of you who may be interested in diving into greater depth on how AI and computer vision could help your offline retail and get some of those analytics, understand those customers, etc. You're welcome to please scan this QR code and get to the link for that. So maybe the next slide then. So once again, it is a special prize. Even I don't know what it is. So, but I don't live in Vietnam, so I'm not qualified. Besides, I don't think I should be. So, but please do share on your favorite social media platform. Would love to, continue hearing from you. My colleagues have shared some of the links to where you could get some of the slides and some of the documents that we've discussed. Also, really hope to hear from all of you. And again, my sincere thank you to everyone for joining. And from Thailand, a good Sawadee Khap.
Okay, Kap, for the last one, before we actually officially close this out, I think what we'd like to do is to take a pictures with everyone. So if you could please just open your camera, and then we'll just have a memorabilia. Make your best faces. Kun Ton, Kap, are we ready for this? So the audience, I think we've got about 70 people joining this. Okay, so smile cheese, 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. So Kun Ton, have you got the picture of everyone, Kap?
Okay.
Okay, Kap, I imagine so. Okay, so on behalf of True Digital and Thai Business Association of Vietnam, thank you very much for your time. We've hoped that this talk by our distinguished speakers and the panelists will have given you the insights on how you could maybe adopt those strategies and those experiences into your business. So we really hope to meet you again, in person or very soon in Vietnam or in Thailand. But we've pretty much finished on the dot at 11:30 right now. So thank you very much for your time, and we hope to see you again very soon. So farewell from TVA and from True Digital. Thanks very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Kap.
Bye. Thank you.